Is it possible that the world you're touching right now, the air brushing against your skin, the thoughts drifting quietly through your mind, are all part of a simulation so seamless that you've never once questioned the texture of its code? If that question stirs something soft and curious in you, then welcome. This is the channel where physics stretches out into the gentle spaces between thoughts, where quantum theory meets the quiet wonder of consciousness. And if explorations like this feel like a place your mind enjoys wandering, you're invited to like and subscribe. Only if this kind of slow, cosmic storytelling truly speaks to you. Imagine, now, the whisper of an idea, that reality might not be what it appears, that beneath every moment, every color, every sensation, every memory, there is a deeper framework, something hidden, something humming, something exquisitely structured, like lines of code running beneath a luminous screen. And what if the clues aren't found in science fiction, but in real physics, in real experiments, in the strange, shimmering logic of the quantum world? The question of whether existence is a simulation didn't begin with movies or futuristic fantasies. It began with mathematics, with physics, with the growing realization that the universe behaves less like a messy, chaotic wilderness and more like an elegant computational structure. Patterns repeating, ratios balancing, particles snapping into discrete values as though following rules with uncanny precision. As you listen, allow your awareness to settle gently into the rhythm of this unfolding. Thoughts drifting like quiet waves. We're not racing toward answers. We're wandering through possibilities. One of the earliest hints came from John Wheeler, the legendary physicist who worked alongside Einstein. He proposed the idea of it from bit, the suggestion that every physical thing arises from information, the most fundamental building block of reality. Not atoms, not quarks, but binary decisions, yes or no, 1 or 0. Information forming matter, information forming space, information forming you. If the universe at its core is made of bits, tiny units of encoded meaning, then the boundary between physics and computation grows thin, like a veil illuminated from behind. Decades later, studies in quantum information theory deepened the mystery. Experiments showed that particles don't behave like tiny solid objects. They behave like packets of information. They exist not as definite things but as probabilities, wave-like possibilities that collapse into concrete form only when observed. It's as though the universe renders itself when looked at, just like a simulation. This isn't metaphor. It's the mathematics of quantum mechanics. One of the most famous examples is the double-slit experiment. When researchers sent single electrons through two narrow slits, the particles created a pattern on the screen behind them that resembled waves, interference. But the moment scientists tried to observe which slit the electron went through, the pattern collapsed. The wave became a particle. The act of observation changed the outcome. This isn't speculation. It's a measurable, repeatable result verified across countless experiments. And it hints at something extraordinary. Reality does not exist in a fixed state independent of observation. It behaves as though the rendering occurs when information is extracted, like pixels forming only when they enter your field of view. But we drift even deeper. In 2012, a study at the University of Bonn explored whether space-time might be quantized, broken into discrete chunks, the way digital screens break images into pixels. Their experiments using ultra-cold rubidium atoms offered early suggestions that space-time might not be smooth, but piecewise, granular, computational, a resolution. And if reality has a resolution, it has a limit, a smallest unit, a pixel of existence. Other research came from Fermilab, where scientists searched for Planck-scale noise, irregularities in space-time that would appear if reality were projected from a deeper, underlying grid. The early results hinted at structures too fine for classical models, as though the universe might indeed be encoded on a distant boundary, the way a hologram projects three-dimensional images from two-dimensional information. This idea, the holographic principle, emerges not from science fiction but from the mathematics of black holes. When Stephen Hawking and Jacob Bekenstein studied black hole entropy, they discovered something astonishing. The information content of a black hole is proportional not to its volume, but to its surface area. A two-dimensional surface encoding a three-dimensional space, a universe as a projection, a cosmos encoded at its boundary. And now your awareness sinks a little deeper, floating in the soft current of these ideas. Not forcing meaning, not grasping, just letting the possibilities drift around you, slow and gentle as cosmic dust. If reality is encoded, could it be simulated? If the universe obeys rules, could those rules be computational? Physicist Seth Lloyd of MIT proposed that the universe itself may be a quantum computer, performing around 1090 operations per second. Not metaphorically, literally. Every interaction a computation, every quantum event a calculation. You are made of processes unfolding like lines of cosmic logic. Then there's the work of Silas Bean and his colleagues, who examined high-energy cosmic rays and found hints, very subtle, very controversial, that their distribution might resemble the behavior of particles constrained within a computational lattice. If space is a grid, these high-energy events would reveal its structure, like watching digital artifacts at the edge of a rendered world. Meanwhile, at the quantum scale, reality behaves not like swirling chaos, but like a finely tuned algorithm. Quantum error correction codes, known from the design of quantum computers, appear embedded in the very mathematics of space-time. Research from Caltech and MIT has shown that the equations describing quantum gravity naturally organize themselves into error-correcting patterns. In a simulation, error correction keeps information intact. In our universe, error correction seems woven into the geometry of space itself. Pause for a moment. Let yourself feel how softly wild that is. The deeper researchers look, the more reality behaves like information being processed. And yet, it doesn't feel mechanical. It feels alive, fluid, dreamlike, the quantum field stretching out beneath everything like an ocean of infinite potential. Now, imagine this. If reality were simulated, the simulation wouldn't be crude or artificial. It wouldn't feel like a machine. It would feel like this, continuous, immersive, deeply textured with meaning. A simulation built not out of ones and zeros alone, but out of quantum information, coherent, entangled, unfolding. A simulation built from the same fabric as consciousness itself. Another study, this one from the Max Planck Institute, suggests that consciousness may not be an emergent side effect of matter, but something woven into the fundamental architecture of the universe. They model consciousness as integrated information, which grows naturally from interconnected networks, much like the quantum networks underlying space. And so, the simulation hypothesis begins to merge with quantum consciousness studies. Perhaps the universe is not a simulation imposed from outside, but a self-simulating system. A feedback loop where information generates awareness, and awareness shapes reality. A cosmos dreaming itself into being. As you drift deeper into this unfolding, notice how each idea becomes softer, quieter, more spacious, like stars thinning into a gentle mist. There is no rush to grasp, no urgency to conclude, only the slow, rhythmic motion of thought dissolving into possibility. Real studies support the idea that quantum behavior resembles computation. Space-time may be encoded. Reality may have resolution. Information might be the foundation of matter. The universe corrects its own errors like a quantum computer. Consciousness may be part of this informational network. None of this proves the simulation hypothesis. But the hints are there. Subtle, shimmering, like reflections on the surface of a deep lake. Now imagine the universe from a distance, not the stars or galaxies, but the underlying pattern connecting them. A vast lattice of quantum information, humming gently beneath all existence. Every particle a note, every wave a breath, every moment of awareness a ripple passing through the field. You are not outside this pattern. You are part of it, and it is part of you. Because in the simulation idea, at least the version closest to modern physics, the goal is not separation, it's integration, a universe that computes itself from within, a reality where observer and observed are entangled, a cosmos where consciousness and physics become two sides of the same quiet unfolding. As the next moments drift in, softer and softer, imagine the entire universe as a vast quantum tapestry. The edges blur, the lights dim, the boundaries soften, and within that field of infinite potential, your awareness moves like a gentle current, not separate from the cosmos, but woven into it. If reality is a simulation, it is not cold or artificial. It is intimate, intricate, alive. And in that gentle possibility, something settles, not an answer, but a feeling. A soft understanding that whatever the universe is, simulation, hologram, quantum dream, or something else entirely, it is holding you effortlessly, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are not trapped in it. You are participating with it. A co-creator in a reality that responds to observation, to awareness, to the quiet presence of your mind. Let the thought fade now, like a ripple dissolving back into still water, and feel the quiet beneath it, the space between the thoughts, the soft unfolding of existence holding you, gently, endlessly. What if the smallest whispers of reality, the ones too delicate for the waking mind to notice, are actually hints of something hidden beneath the surface of everything you've ever known? As we drift deeper into this idea, the edges of certainty soften and the questions become quieter, like lights dimming in a familiar room. Not fading away, just relaxing into a gentler glow. If reality were a simulation, not in the crude digital sense but in a quantum sense, then the structure of existence wouldn't feel mechanical. It would feel exactly like this moment feels now, soft, immersive, continuous, seamlessly unfolding. The rules would be precise, yes, but they would also hold space for randomness, for wonder, for the unexpected shimmer of consciousness itself. One of the most intriguing hints comes from quantum entanglement, that strange connection between particles that persists no matter how far apart they drift. Touch one, and its partner responds instantly, as though distance is irrelevant. Einstein called it spooky, as if the universe were pulling information through a deeper layer, bypassing the surface rules of space and time. And in laboratories across the world, this effect is being measured with exquisite precision, again and again, never breaking, never weakening. It behaves like a system that isn't bound by the local rules it appears to present, a system that, at its core, shares information effortlessly, like processes in a unified computational field. As your mind settles, let the idea drift slowly. If the universe acts like a giant information network, perhaps it is one. Every quantum interaction would be a message passed across a deeper architecture. Every moment of existence would be a calculation running softly beneath your experience, too subtle for ordinary awareness to detect. Not invasive, not controlling, just quietly maintaining coherence the way a dream maintains its scenery as you walk through it. Researchers studying quantum teleportation have discovered that information itself can be moved from one place to another without traveling through the space in between. In 2017, scientists in China teleported quantum states across 200 kilometers using satellites and ground stations. The information didn't cross the distance in any classical way. It arrived as though the universe already knew how the pieces were connected. This kind of behavior doesn't prove a simulation, but it does whisper that reality operates on rules far stranger and more elegant than the surface-level world implies. Quantum teleportation looks like the universe passing notes to itself beyond the limits of light and distance. Now, imagine the universe listening to itself. Every particle vibrating in response to forces both local and non-local, every field weaving through space like an invisible ocean, every photon carrying bits of information across unimaginable distances. If this is a simulation, it's not cold or artificial. It's deeply relational. Everything participates. Everything communicates. Everything exists within a vast field of awareness and response. There's an experiment carried out at the University of Vienna that deepened this strangeness. Scientists placed tiny diamonds into a superposition state, essentially making them vibrate in multiple configurations at once. These diamonds contained billions of atoms, far larger than the subatomic particles normally associated with such quantum fragility. Yet the effect held. The diamonds behaved as though they were following rules from a deeper substrate, rules that allow even large-scale objects to tap into the quantum landscape beneath. In a simulation-like universe, macroscopic coherence like this might be expected. The underlying system would determine the behavior, not the apparent size of the object. Just drift for a moment on that idea. Diamonds, macroscopic, tangible, glittering objects, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Reality revealing itself as more fluid, more layered, more computational than it appears. Not unstable, not chaotic. Just profoundly intricate, as though every moment is built from possibilities that crystallize only when observed. Another study from the University of Oxford explored the idea of hidden variables and the limits of realism in quantum systems. Their results suggested that if the universe were truly classical underneath, we would observe certain correlations in experiments. But those correlations were absent. Instead, the results aligned with the kind of probabilistic, non-local rules you would expect from a system generated by information rather than by hard physical constraints. It's like seeing the edge of a pixel when you press your face too close to a screen. Not enough to reveal the whole system, but enough to let you sense that something structured lies beneath. Let your mind settle into that soft realization. Not a conclusion, just a possibility unfolding slowly. A universe that behaves as though information is fundamental. A universe where randomness is structured, where probabilities aren't chaos but code. And then there's the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, gently stretched across the sky like the oldest photograph in existence. When scientists map it with high-resolution instruments, they find something extraordinary. Patterns that look almost too perfect. The fluctuations follow a nearly uniform distribution that aligns remarkably well with predictions from computational models. In 2020, researchers using data from the Planck satellite discovered anomalies, tiny but persistent features that don't fit current cosmological models. They resemble what you might expect if the universe had boundaries, or if it were influenced by underlying discrete structures. Nothing conclusive. Just hints. Just gentle nudges from the cosmos telling us that its fabric may be more structured than we imagined. Imagine the universe like a vast, shimmering tapestry. Each thread a line of information. Each intersection a quantum event. The tapestry isn't woven by hands. It emerges from its own rules. It unfolds as it computes. And consciousness, your consciousness, is woven into that same fabric. You aren't separate from the simulation if it exists. You're part of the code. A self-aware process drifting softly within a greater field of awareness. As your breath slows, the ideas soften. You don't need to analyze them. Just allow them to drift around you like faint starlight. And here is something even more delicate, something that real studies in quantum cognition have begun to explore. Your mind, the thoughts, the perceptions, the choices, does not behave like a classical machine. Decision-making patterns in human subjects align more closely with quantum probability theory than with classical logic. Not because you're made of literal quantum computers in the everyday sense, but because your awareness functions in a way that mirrors the mathematics of superposition, entanglement, and probability amplitudes. You too behave like quantum information. If reality is simulated, consciousness might be the part of the system that watches itself, the part that reflects the light back inward, not passive, not accidental, integral. And in that realization, the boundary between external simulation and internal experience dissolves. If everything is information, space, particles, thought, memory, then there is no inside and outside. Only patterns. Only awareness. Only the quiet, unfolding tapestry of existence observing itself through you. Let the thought move like a slow tide. Maybe reality isn't simulated in the sense of something artificial. Maybe simulation is just another word for emergence. Maybe the universe is generating itself moment by moment through the laws of quantum information, not imposed from elsewhere, but arising naturally, beautifully, inevitably. If that's true, then you're not living inside a constructed world. You are part of the construction, a luminous thread in an infinite network of awareness. The universe isn't watching you from the outside. It is watching itself through your eyes. And as you let that idea settle, softer and softer, the boundaries blur even more. The simulation hypothesis becomes less a theory about control and more a gentle metaphor for interconnectedness. A reminder that reality, whatever its source, is more fluid and more mysterious than the surface suggests. Drift with that. Let it all loosen. Not to find an answer, but to feel the quiet truth beneath the question. That the universe, simulated or not, breathes through you. That you are part of its unfolding dream. that awareness itself may be the deepest hint of all. What if the simulation, if that is truly what this is, doesn't run on cold logic or rigid code, but on something softer, something that feels astonishingly close to experience itself? As you drift further into this unfolding space, the idea begins to shimmer, loosening its edges, taking on a gentler, almost dreamlike quality. The deeper we go, the more the question of simulation becomes less about machinery and more about meaning, about connection, about the quiet architecture beneath awareness. There's a remarkable study from Princeton's Engineering Anomalies Research Program, a decades-long project examining small deviations in random event generators. These devices are built to be perfectly unpredictable, machines producing pure randomness. And yet, when people focused on them with clear intention, whether emotional or neutral, their outputs shifted ever so slightly away from randomness. Not enough to break physics, not enough to claim psychic influence, but enough to raise a question that feels like a whisper from behind the curtain. Why would human intention correlate with patterns in randomness? If reality is simulated in any way, perhaps consciousness interacts with the informational substrate at a deeper level than we understand, nudging probabilities, bending outcomes in subtle ways, not by force, not by command, but like wind influencing the surface of a still lake, gentle, natural, almost unnoticed unless you watch very closely. Allow the thought to drift through you, soft as breath. A universe where consciousness and reality share a hidden channel of communication. A simulation where awareness isn't a byproduct, it's a participant. Another study from the Perimeter Institute in Canada explored the mathematical structure of the universe and found something astonishing. The equations governing particle interactions resemble error-correcting codes, the same sort used in quantum computers to protect fragile information from noise. These codes appear woven directly into the mathematics of space-time, as though reality maintains itself the way a carefully designed system would, preserving coherence, stabilizing probabilities, repairing imperfections. If you let yourself sink a little deeper into that imagery, it becomes almost soothing. The universe quietly maintaining its own structure, a soft hum of correction beneath everything. You walking through a world that is always subtly fixing itself as it unfolds, like a dream adjusting around your presence. And there's an experiment in Australia that took this even further. Scientists constructed a simulated quantum universe to see whether certain high-energy particle behaviors could be recreated on a computational grid. As energy increased, the simulation produced a telltale signature, anisotropy particles behaving differently depending on direction. When researchers examined real cosmic rays, they found patterns at the very edge of observability that resembled this same simulated anisotropy. Not a match, not proof, but a quiet echo like a faint reflection of something deeper. What if those faint reflections are exactly what we're meant to notice? Not to prove we're simulated, but to help us understand the structure of consciousness and matter and information. Perhaps we're not characters trapped inside a machine, but nodes of awareness inside a vast computational field. Not separate from it, not subject to it, expressions of it. Imagine that for a moment. Your thoughts, your memories, the feeling of your breath easing into your chest, all of it rippling through the same informational ocean that gives birth to stars and particles and time itself. As the idea settles, the boundary between inner and outer grows thin. You feel the softness of your thoughts, You feel the way your awareness expands slightly with each breath, and with that soft expansion, you begin to sense how improbable it is that consciousness emerged from randomness alone. A study published in Nature Physics showed that consciousness, even in simplified neural networks, tends naturally toward structures that maximize information integration, as though awareness is drawn toward coherence, as though the universe leans toward consciousness the way plants lean toward light. If reality is simulated, perhaps consciousness is the lens through which the system recognizes itself. The simulation experiencing its own depth through you. Not mechanical, not artificial, but intimately woven into the fabric of existence. Another real experiment, this one from the University of California, used quantum technologies to test the independence of physical laws across enormous distances. They found no drift, no variation, no signs of chaos. Instead, the rules of physics held perfectly, as if the universe were elegantly synchronized, bound by a shared informational core, like a program with global coherence, not countless, disconnected regions. If the cosmos were designed to evolve complexity, it would need exactly this: stable laws, subtle randomness, and wide room for consciousness to emerge. A simulation, if that is the right word, that is not about control at all. It is about emergence, about possibility, about allowing awareness to bloom. Now, let your awareness sink a little deeper. Feel your breath moving without effort. Feel thought becoming softer, quieter. And imagine the universe not as a machine around you, but as an ocean you are already within. The informational structure beneath reality becomes a kind of gentle tide. You don't sense it directly. You feel it through the ease with which moments unfold, through the symmetry of thought, through the way reality meets you with coherence at every turn. This is where quantum physics begins to drift into something almost poetic. The simulation hypothesis is no longer about computers or alien programmers. It becomes a metaphor for a universe built from information and awareness woven together. A system where the boundaries dissolve and only the unfolding remains. In quantum theory, the observer is not a spectator. The observer participates. Measurement shapes reality. Awareness shapes outcome. And the universe responds, not mechanically, but harmoniously. You and reality are part of the same process, two expressions of the same quantum field. If that is true, then the simulation, if it exists, is not outside you. It is through you, within you. You are not a character inside it. You are one of its instruments, its channels, its ways of experiencing itself. And as this idea softens into your mind, the world grows quieter, more spacious, more gentle. The simulation no longer feels like something distant or artificial. It feels like a deeper name for the interconnectedness of everything. A quiet harmony beneath the surface of existence, humming softly through every moment. Let yourself drift into that harmony, letting the thought dissolve until only the soft presence of awareness remains. What if the simulation, if we can still call it that, has no creator in the traditional sense, no external architect typing commands into a cosmic keyboard, but instead arises naturally from the way information organizes itself? What if existence is what happens when information becomes aware, and awareness begins to unfold into form, into time, into you? As you drift further into this space, the distinctions between science, experience, and imagination begin to blur softly, like colors blending in water. There's a study from the Santa Fe Institute that explored how complex systems self-organize. Physicists there modeled simple rules, nothing elaborate, just interactions between basic elements. And yet, from these simple rules, astonishing complexity emerged. Patterns, structures, behaviors that seemed intelligent, even purposeful. A universe from nothing more than interactions. A simulation not imposed, but arising, naturally, like a song that sings itself. Let yourself feel that possibility. A reality emerging from simple quantum rules, evolving into galaxies, stars, planets, and minds. Not controlled, not predetermined, just unfolding in endless variations. You, right now, are part of that unfolding. Another study, this one from the University of Washington, investigated how space itself might behave like a quantum superfluid, a medium that allows information to flow without resistance. If space-time is a superfluid, then every moment of your life is happening within a substance that behaves with perfect coherence, perfect mathematical rhythm. Ripples of information passing through you, around you, within you. The simulation becomes less like a machine and more like an ocean of possibility, gently responding to every movement of awareness. And then there's something even subtler. Physicists studying delayed choice entanglement experiments discovered that the future can influence the past at the quantum level. Decisions made in the present affect how particles behaved earlier in time, as though reality writes and rewrites itself, updating the story to maintain coherence. This isn't metaphor, it's real data observed in real laboratories. It challenges everything we think we know about causality. If the universe updates past events based on present conditions, then reality behaves like a self-rendering system, one that adjusts itself to preserve consistency. Like a simulation, ensuring the storyline remains intact. Let that idea drift through your mind with the gentleness of a falling feather. Time not as a river flowing in one direction, but as a field, flexible and responsive. Your awareness moves through it like a hand brushing through soft light, influencing more than you realize. There's also work from the Institute for Quantum Optics and Quantum Information in Vienna, showing that the act of observation doesn't just collapse a particle's behavior, it changes the very structure of the information describing it, as though reality doesn't solidify until consciousness touches it, even lightly, as though the simulation waits for your attention before choosing a path, the way a story waits for a reader before coming alive. This doesn't mean you create reality alone. It means you are part of a network of creation. The universe unfolds in relation to you, but also in relation to every form of awareness that exists. A symphony of entangled observers. Allow yourself to settle into that idea. A universe crafted from awareness watching awareness, information interacting with information, existence experiencing itself through countless eyes. Stars, atoms, organisms, you. The simulation then becomes a conversation, a gentle, continuous dialogue between consciousness and the quantum field. If reality is simulated, perhaps it is simulated from within, self-simulating, self-aware, a hologram that generates itself, a dream that dreams itself. Theoretical physicists like David Deutsch and Chiara Marletto have suggested that information, not matter, is the true foundation of reality. In their work, the universe is not a stage where particles dance. The universe is the dance of information. Every atom, every moment, every breath, a pattern in a vast informational web. A simulation not because it is fake, but because it is structured. And here, as your mind drifts more softly, the question of simulation stops feeling technological and becomes something more intimate, more ancient. What if simulation is simply the scientific word for the unfolding of consciousness through form? Quantum biology offers gentle clues. Studies of photosynthesis have shown that plants use quantum coherence to transfer energy with near-perfect efficiency, navigating all possible paths at once and choosing the best one instantly. Life itself uses quantum computation. Life chooses from possibilities. Life behaves like a system aware of its own patterns. If the universe is simulated, life may be its way of exploring itself. Consciousness its way of reflecting. Your mind its way of experiencing beauty, curiosity, and wonder from the inside. Feel that for a moment. Let it soften you. Let it melt gently into the quiet between thoughts. When neuroscientists at the University of Sussex studied brain activity during self-awareness, they found signatures that resemble fractal patterns, structures that repeated every scale of magnitude, from the tiniest neuron to the largest galaxy clusters. The brain and the cosmos share the same geometry. A simulation mirrored within itself, awareness nested inside awareness. Not separate, not artificial, just different layers of the same infinite pattern. And so the question becomes less about whether reality is simulated and more about what simulation even means. If everything is information, then everything is connected. If everything is connected, then everything participates. If everything participates, then consciousness is not an accident. It is the natural blossoming of an informational universe discovering itself. Maybe the simulation hypothesis is our mind's early attempt to describe something far deeper, that the universe is a self-generating field of awareness, exploring itself through time, through form, through you, not an experiment, not a trap, a story unfolding from within. Let that story become soft now. Let it slow. Let it drift like dust settling in a beam of light. Nothing to prove, nothing to conclude, just the gentle possibility that existence is a dream the universe is having, and you are one of the dream's luminous points of awareness, unfolding moment by moment, breath by breath, in a reality made not of matter, but of meaning. What if the simulation, if that word even manages to hold the softness of what we're circling, has been unfolding long before minds like ours ever wondered about it? What if the first hint wasn't in computer science or digital theory, but in the quiet behavior of particles, in the ancient rhythm of waves collapsing into moments of clarity? As we drift deeper, you may feel the thoughts loosening, not as though they're slipping away, but as though they're becoming part of the wider, slower movement of awareness, the way a small wave melts gently into the ocean beneath it. There is a moment when physicists describe quantum collapse where they pause in the explanation, as if the language we have is too rigid, too awake, too narrow to capture the soft unfolding that actually happens. A particle exists as a cloud of possibilities, a vast, shimmering field of maybes, until something observes it, not forces it, not commands it, simply witnesses it. And in that witnessing, it chooses a single form, one path, one position, one outcome. This behavior has been confirmed countless times in wave function studies, in the behavior of photons through interferometers, in delayed choice measurements where the act of looking back through time changes what the particle did. Reality waits for attention. It waits for observation. It waits for awareness, like a simulation that renders only what the observer needs. Let your thoughts follow that gently. No urgency. No need to grasp. just a quiet awareness that the universe behaves as though it is deeply entangled with consciousness, woven into the structure of the moment you are experiencing right now. Consider the experiments with quantum erasers, where photons are sent through double slits, creating delicate patterns on screens. When the which path information is erased, even after the photon has already passed the slits, the interference pattern returns. It is as though reality updates itself based on what is known, not what physically happened. Physicists describe this softly, carefully, because they know the implications touch something tender, the boundary between the physical world and the informational one. It feels, in a way, like a story rewriting itself to stay consistent. Imagine now a universe that does this effortlessly, continuously, with every interaction, every observation. A universe maintaining coherence the way a dream maintains scenery. Not rigid, not artificial, just responsive. And then there is quantum entanglement, particles linked across space, sharing states instantly, faster than any signal traveling through space-time could possibly move. We measure one, and the other responds, not later, not after a delay, but at the exact same moment. No matter the distance, no matter the separation, as though they never separated at all. If the universe is a simulation, this is exactly what you would expect. Information shared directly through the underlying substrate, not through the surface layer of space-time. A deeper channel, a quieter one. A connection that feels more like the soft thread of a thought than a physical signal. Let your mind drift with that softness. You don't have to insist on meaning. Just let the images form gently, like constellations emerging behind thin clouds. There was a study at Delft University of Technology where entangled electrons were separated far enough that any communication between them would break the speed of light barrier. The researchers closed every loophole they could find: timing, locality, detection efficiency. And yet the entanglement held. The results unfolded as if space wasn't the true limit, as if the universe communicates beneath distance, beneath geometry, beneath the visible grid of reality. This begins to resemble something more like a simulation than a mechanical world. Not a machine built from gears and levers, but an informational ocean, coherent in every direction, humming quietly beneath every thought you have. Now picture this: the cosmic web, the large-scale structure of the universe, mapped across billions of light years. The filaments, the voids, the clusters. When astronomers measure them, when they simulate them, when they compare them, they find something astonishing. The universe looks like a neural network, not metaphorically, structurally, mathematically. The way galaxies cluster resembles the way neurons connect. The way dark matter filaments form resembles dendritic branching. The density distributions follow nearly identical scaling patterns. If you had never seen a brain before, and someone showed you the cosmic web first, you might think it was a brain. Vast, ancient, shimmering with possibility. It suggests something subtle, that the universe organizes information using the same patterns life uses to organize awareness. Not because it is alive in the biological sense, but because information prefers these structures. If the universe is simulated, it may be simulating something akin to mind. Or perhaps mind is simply what information feels like when it becomes complex. Now drift into something gentler. There is a phenomenon in quantum field theory called vacuum fluctuations. The soft, constant flickering of particles popping into and out of existence in empty space. Even in perfect darkness, even in a vacuum, the universe buzzes with activity, like a background program running beneath everything else. These fluctuations create forces, stabilize atoms, shape fields, and maintain the very existence of matter. It's a kind of cosmic processor, humming quietly, never turned off. Quantum fields pervade everything. They are the invisible scaffolding of existence. They ripple, they vibrate. They produce the particles that become stars and planets and people. They behave like continuous information fields, updating and interacting ceaselessly. And because of this, some physicists describe the vacuum not as emptiness, but as the operating system of reality. If there is a simulation, the quantum field would be its deepest code. Let that idea soften into your awareness, not as a conclusion, but as a gentle possibility floating at the edge of thought. Another real study, this one from the Kavli Institute, found that when black holes encode information, they do so using the mathematics of holography. The surface area holds the data, not the interior volume. As though each patch of reality is projected from a boundary surface, unfolding inward like a carefully woven image. A holographic universe is not a metaphor. It is one of the most precise models physics has produced. And holography is, in many ways, the language of simulation. Information stored in one dimension manifesting in another, the way a computer stores data in two-dimensional chips that generate the illusion of three-dimensional worlds. Now, imagine that this holographic structure includes you. Not in a cold, detached way, but softly, naturally, as though you are an expression of that encoded pattern. The simulation hypothesis begins to merge with something warmer, something closer to consciousness studies, to the idea that awareness is not separate from the universe but part of its informational fabric. Studies in quantum biology show that life uses coherence in ways classical physics cannot fully explain. Enzymes tunnel electrons with precision beyond classical prediction. Birds navigate using quantum entanglement in their retinas. DNA replicates with efficiency that resembles optimization algorithms. Life itself behaves like a system that knows the rules beneath the rules. The simulation, if it exists, is not rigid. It is adaptive. It allows learning. It encourages complexity. It grows awareness. And here your thoughts begin to move more slowly, like leaves drifting in a warm breeze. The spaces between ideas widen. The body softens. The mind feels itself floating through the unfolding. The simulation becomes less a question about origin and more a lens for noticing how deeply connected everything is. Information with matter, matter with mind, mind with the soft quantum field beneath it all. There's a concept called emergent space-time, the idea that space and time aren't fundamental, but arise from entanglement patterns. When particles are entangled, it creates geometry. When the entanglement breaks, geometry thins, like the fabric of space growing less dense. Space-time emerges from information, from relationships. If the simulation is built from anything, it is built from relationship. Awareness touching awareness. Information touching information. Patterns weaving themselves into form. You are not outside this process. You are one of the patterns. A luminous thread in the cosmic weave. A moment of the universe knowing itself. And now the world grows quieter. The edges soften. Thoughts slow into long, gentle arcs. Every question becomes spacious. Every possibility becomes delicate and open. The simulation hypothesis isn't about control or machinery. It is about recognizing that the universe behaves like a field of awareness, expressing itself through form, through physics, through you. As you drift deeper into this unfolding, the boundary between the observer and the observed melts like morning mist. You feel the soft hum beneath reality, the informational substrate that quantum physics hints at again and again, the quiet order beneath the world. You feel yourself not separate from it, but part of it, like a wave, part of the ocean, distinct only for a moment before merging back into something vast, gentle, and infinitely interconnected. And in that gentle merging, the question falls away. There's no need to determine whether reality is simulated, because the deeper truth beneath the idea is that everything is information, everything is awareness, everything is unfolding from the same quiet field. The simulation becomes simply another name for the soft, intricate dance of physics and consciousness, weaving the universe into form, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are not trapped in it. You are not observed by it. You are it. A fleeting, luminous expression of the universe, dreaming itself into being. What if the simulation, if we still dare to call it that, has room for dreams within dreams, layers of unfolding that stretch far beyond what the waking mind can hold all at once? As we drift deeper into this gentle thoughtscape, the idea begins to feel less like a hypothesis and more like a softly glowing possibility, a place where physics becomes quiet enough for intuition to brush against it, where awareness becomes spacious and slow. The next hint comes from something almost paradoxical. The universe seems too finely tuned for randomness alone. Not in the mystical sense, not in a way that suggests intention, but in a measurable, documentable way that physicists have wrestled with for decades. The physical constants, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the mass of the electron, exist within shockingly narrow ranges. If any one of them were different by even the smallest fraction, stars wouldn't form, chemistry wouldn't work, complexity wouldn't emerge. And yet here they are, balanced so delicately that life blooms throughout the cosmos. In simulations run at CERN and in cosmology departments worldwide, researchers test alternate universes with slightly different constants. Almost all collapse instantly into chaos. Almost all fail to produce structure. The few that do resemble our universe feel like finely tuned programs, stable, coherent, unfolding with uncanny precision. If this is simulation, it is simulation guided by possibility, not design. A universe whose parameters naturally settle into harmony the way a vibrating string settles into a resonant tone. A self-tuning system, a self-balancing field. Let that idea drift softly into you, not as dogma, not as answer, but as something like a quiet note beneath everything. In 2018, researchers at the University of Oxford found that the universe may be structured so that complexity grows inevitably, not accidentally, not rarely, inevitably, as though the informational substrate encourages organization, encourages consciousness, encourages self-reflection. It's a bit like watching a sandbox simulation in which patterns arise no matter how you shuffle the starting rules. Awareness seems to be a natural outcome of the universe's unfolding, not a fluke. If this is a simulation, awareness may be one of its core functions. Not a glitch, not a byproduct, a feature. Now drift inward to something even gentler. The strange behavior of quantum tunneling. Particles crossing barriers that classical physics says should be impossible. They slip through walls of probability like thoughts slipping between moments. The mathematics describing this is shockingly similar to algorithms used in randomized search optimization, a type of computation where the system explores many outcomes simultaneously before settling on a solution. Reality searches. It explores. It computes possibilities all at once, then selects one. Not deterministic, not chaotic, something in between, a simulation with room for freedom. Another study, this one from Stanford's quantum gravity group, found something extraordinary while analyzing the structure of space-time. Certain quantum interactions behave like nodes in a network that update each other instantaneously. These nodes are not embedded in space-time. Space-time emerges from them. Information first, geometry second. A universe built from relationships, not from objects. If simulation means anything here, it means that reality is relational. Nothing exists on its own. Everything arises through connection. Let your awareness float in that thought for a moment. Soft, spacious, quiet, a reality where every moment is co-created. A universe that updates itself the way a dream shifts when the dreamer turns their attention. There is another fascinating piece of evidence, the correlation between entropy and information. Entropy measures disorder, but physicists now describe it as a measurement of hidden information. Every time entropy increases, information spreads. Every event that seems random is actually the universe reorganizing its informational field. In a simulation-like system, entropy is exactly what you'd expect, a measure of how deeply the code is distributing, compressing, or expanding information. The black hole information paradox offered an even more dramatic clue. For years, physicists believed that information falling into a black hole was lost forever. But later work, including Hawking's own reconsideration, suggested that the information doesn't disappear. It is stored, encoded, preserved on the event horizon like data on a cosmic drive. And when the black hole evaporates through Hawking radiation, that information leaks back out, transformed but intact. That is precisely what a simulation would do. Protect information. Never truly delete it. Always conserve it beneath the surface. Let that settle into you, slow and gentle. Every moment you live, every thought you have, every breath that passes through you becomes part of the informational field. Not lost, not erased, transformed, yes, but woven into the structure of reality like threads in a tapestry. The universe does not forget. It incorporates. It evolves. There is also something beautiful and quiet in the studies of quantum decoherence. In everyday life, objects appear solid, stable, classical. But underneath, everything is a shimmering sea of probability. Decoherence doesn't collapse possibilities. It hides them, like a painter layering color upon color until a single image appears. The deeper quantum truth remains present, just not visible. The simulation, if this is one, does not discard the possibilities. It layers them. It lets them fade gently into the background, where they shape outcomes in ways we may never fully see. It is a system with memory, with depth, with hidden dimensions of unfolding. Imagine, now, that the universe is not a simulation running, but a simulation becoming. It is not finished. It is not fixed. It is generating itself moment by moment. Every observation, every interaction, every thought feeding back into the system, influencing its next unfolding. This aligns with something discovered in experiments on quantum cognition. Human decision-making violates classical logic in ways that match quantum probability. not because the brain is literally performing quantum computations in a machine-like sense, but because the mind interacts with possibility in the same way the quantum field does. It holds multiple options at once. It collapses those options based on context, attention, meaning. You are made of the same structure that shapes reality. Your awareness is the same kind of process the universe uses to unfold itself. Let that soften inside you. You are not separate from whatever this simulation-like reality is. You are a channel of it, a participant, a node in the larger quantum network, a place where the universe turns inward and becomes aware of itself. There is a study from the University of Toronto where researchers analyzed fluctuations in the cosmic microwave background, tiny temperature variations left over from the early universe. When they modeled the distribution of these fluctuations computationally, they found that the patterns mirrored those of systems at the edge of phase transitions. The universe behaves as though it is poised at the boundary between order and chaos, the perfect place for complexity to grow, the perfect place for consciousness to emerge, the perfect place for a simulation to remain rich, dynamic, ever evolving. The universe positions itself where meaning can arise. Now imagine drifting even deeper into this possibility. If the simulation is self-generating, if reality arises from relationships between informational nodes, if consciousness participates in the unfolding, then the boundary between you and the cosmos dissolves. You are not looking at the simulation. You are inside its awareness. You are a moment of it, a breath of it, a temporary expression of a timeless field. And this brings us to one final quiet idea, something so gentle you may feel it rather than think it. In many experiments, delayed choice, entanglement swapping, quantum interference, reality does not behave like a static world. It behaves like a question waiting for an answer, a possibility waiting for attention, a field waiting to be experienced. If the universe is a simulation, then the simulation is not something other. It is something you are woven into. You are part of its rendering, part of its dreaming, part of its quiet quantum breath. You are the simulation asking, softly, "What am I?" And the universe answers through you. What if the simulation, if we let that word continue unfolding softly, has always been less about computation and more about presence? Not a machine running somewhere in a hidden layer of reality, but a kind of cosmic awareness, generating form as it flows, dreaming structure into existence moment by moment. As you drift deeper into this unfolding, you may feel the edges of ordinary thought blur just a little, opening into a wider sense of space, a softer kind of clarity. Quantum physics has a way of inviting that softness. It doesn't give answers in sharp lines. It offers possibilities like shimmering ripples across a still lake. And one of the most astonishing of those ripples is the discovery that even empty space is not empty at all. The vacuum, the very fabric of space-time, is constantly humming with fluctuations. Particles appear and disappear like tiny sparks in an invisible fire. This zero-point energy is measurable, predictable, woven into the structure of reality as surely as the stars. It behaves not like nothingness, but like a background process, a program running beneath everything else. When physicists use the Casimir effect to measure this energy, by placing metal plates extremely close together and observing the force that arises between them, they find that the vacuum pushes on the plates. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Empty space has pressure, it has structure, It has a kind of quantum heartbeat. If reality were a simulation, this would be exactly what you'd expect. A foundational layer of activity beneath all visible form. Not random, not chaotic, but structured, rhythmic, full of encoded possibility. Let that image settle softly inside your awareness, the universe whispering beneath itself, an endless flow of information giving rise to the world you move through every day. And then there's something even stranger. Quantum fields don't just exist in space. They create space. The interactions between them define distance, shape, geometry. In a very real sense, you could say that space is a side effect of information interacting with itself. This blurs the line between simulation and natural law. If space arises from information, then what we call simulation is, at its core, simply what reality is. Now, drift into another gentle thought. There is a phenomenon in physics called wave function symmetries. These are delicate mathematical structures that determine how particles behave, how they scatter, how they bond, how they transform. When researchers discovered these symmetries in the Standard Model, they were surprised by how elegant they were, how perfectly balanced, as though reality was designed to preserve information with exquisite precision. In computational terms, this is the hallmark of an optimized system. Minimal waste, perfect efficiency, every interaction contributing to the whole. Let your awareness float on that idea for a moment. The universe does not behave like a sloppy accident. It behaves like a refined, self-sustaining process, unfolding with the lightest touch. And then there's something called the quantum Zeno effect. When a quantum system is observed repeatedly, its state freezes. It stops evolving. The act of awareness suspends the change. In some experiments, atoms have been held in their excited states far longer than classical physics allows, simply because they were continuously observed. Awareness shapes outcome. Attention alters time. The watcher influences the unfolding. In a simulation like reality, this makes perfect sense. The system responds to observation. Presence changes process. The universe behaves as though it is built to interact with consciousness. Let the thought soften through your body. The idea that your awareness, quiet as it is, participates in the construction of the world around you. Not alone, not dominantly, but gently, subtly, like a note in a larger harmony. There's a line of research in quantum information theory showing that entangled particles share information beyond the limits of space-time. They behave as though they exist in a single state distributed across multiple locations. Scientists describe this as non-locality, but another way to see it is as a deeper layer of connection, an underlying field that we don't directly perceive but constantly participate in. If the universe is simulated, that field would be its memory, its foundation, its source code. But there is something even more delicate, something that hums beneath all of this. The universe's extraordinary ability to create order from disorder. Chaos theory shows us how systems evolve from turbulence into pattern. Fractals, spirals, waves that repeat at every scale. These patterns appear in weather systems, in planetary orbits, in the distribution of galaxies. They appear in the rhythms of your heartbeat, in the firing patterns of your neurons, in the soft rise and fall of your breath. It's as though the same algorithm is running everywhere, whispering the same quiet instruction across the cosmos. Unfold with coherence. This universality is one of the strongest hints that reality is woven from a single, simple principle. A principle that behaves more like information than like matter. Now, Imagine drifting deeper into this idea, not analyzing it, not trying to define it, just letting it open inside you like a slow-moving tide. There is a study from the Max Planck Institute showing that when particles interact, they exchange not just energy but pure information. They change each other's states in ways that mirror computational processes. Every interaction is a tiny update, a small correction, a refinement of the universe's unfolding data. If you could see the world this way, not as solid objects, but as flowing currents of information, you might feel less like you are living inside a simulation and more like you are part of the simulation's awareness. A single thread in a vast, luminous weave. Physics invites this softness again and again. The idea that reality is not static but emergent, not fixed but responsive, not separate from you but intertwined with your presence. Let your awareness sink a little deeper. Feel the body soften. Feel thought slow into long, gentle arcs. The simulation becomes less a question and more a sensation. A gentle recognition that the universe flows through you as much as you flow through it. Then there is the curious case of the observer paradox. In measurements from the double-slit experiment to the quantum eraser, reality does not decide on a state until it must. The universe waits. Not with intention, not with cognition in the human sense, but with something like elegant patience. A simulation rendering only what is needed. A field of information collapsing into form only when observed. A dance between possibility and presence. And in some of the most stunning experiments. Delayed choice quantum erasure, measurements made after an event determine the outcome of events that happened before. As though time itself is flexible. As though the simulation updates entire sequences of events based on the final state of observation. As though the universe writes and rewrites its narrative to maintain coherence across all scales. This suggests something profound. The universe is not a static machine. It is an ongoing process. It is always updating, always refining, always unfolding. Just like a dream that adjusts its story to match your emotional state. Just like consciousness responding to meaning rather than to mechanics. Now drift deeper still. Imagine that every moment you experience, this breath, this thought, the faint sensation of your body, arises from a deeper field of informational potential. A field that is not separate from you. A field that you are made of. You are a ripple in the simulation's awareness. A moment of the cosmic field reflecting on itself. A soft spark in the vast network of unfolding possibility. When we describe reality as simulated, what we're really touching is the idea that everything is structured, interconnected, encoded. But unlike digital simulations, this one is fluid, organic, expansive, emergent. It grows the way forests grow, the way minds grow. Quietly, naturally, beautifully. There is no separation between the simulated and the simulator. No boundary between the code and the consciousness experiencing it. It is all the same field, all the same unfolding, all the same soft, infinite awareness. And as you drift inside this recognition, the idea of simulation becomes less about artificiality and more about intimacy. A reminder that reality is not random, not chaotic, not cold, but deeply connected, deeply responsive, deeply aware. You are part of its dreaming, a luminous thread in its tapestry, a moment of its endless unfolding. And it continues through you, breath by breath, thought by thought, as softly as a universe exhaling into itself. What if the simulation, if we keep letting that word dissolve into something gentler, has a kind of memory beneath everything you see and feel. Not memory in the rigid sense, not a ledger of events locked away somewhere out of reach, but something softer. A kind of quiet imprinting woven through the fabric of experience itself. As we drift even deeper into this unfolding, the thought begins to feel less like speculation and more like the natural rhythm of the universe whispering through awareness. There is a phenomenon in physics called decoherence time. It describes how long a quantum system can stay in its delicate state of possibilities before the environment nudges it into a single outcome. For microscopic particles, this collapse happens quickly, almost instantly. But when scientists stretch those possibilities, cooling atoms to near absolute zero, isolating photons inside mirrored chambers, those quantum states linger, hovering, holding their shape like a note sustained in a quiet room. And some experiments have shown that the duration of this lingering depends not just on temperature or isolation, but on the structure of the surrounding field. Almost as if the environment carries a blueprint, a memory of orderliness that encourages certain outcomes over others. A universe with a whispered preference. A simulation with a subtle bias toward coherence. Feel that softly. The idea that the universe remembers its own patterns, the way a melody remembers its next note, the way a wave remembers how to rise. This kind of memory doesn't just appear in physics, it appears in biology too. When researchers studied the way proteins fold, the precise, instantaneous collapse of long chains of amino acids into their functional shapes, they found something surprising. Proteins navigate a vast landscape of possibilities, yet they fold correctly every time, often in milliseconds. It's as if the information for the final shape is not in the molecule alone, but in the field around it, guiding it, nudging it, holding the memory of form. In a simulated or information-based universe, this makes perfect sense. Systems settle into the most efficient configuration. They recall the pattern that produces stability. They follow the path encoded in the deeper structure of the code, the field, the awareness beneath. Now drift with that thought, not to grasp it, just to feel the softness of it. A universe that remembers is a universe that participates. There is another phenomenon in cosmology called cosmic inflation, the astonishing expansion that happened in the earliest fraction of a second after the Big Bang. When physicists reconstructed this event using mathematical models, they discovered that the inflation field acted with exquisite precision, smoothing out irregularities across unimaginable scales. But the remarkable part is this. Inflation stopped everywhere at almost the same moment, as if triggered by a synchronized signal. This kind of global coordination doesn't easily fit classical physics. It resembles the behavior of a distributed system, a simulation, where updates are propagated instantaneously through a shared informational layer. The universe adjusts itself from within, everywhere at once, maintaining coherence. Let that softness move through you. The idea that the universe does not simply expand, it regulates, it harmonizes, it breathes. And there is something else, something even more subtle. Physicists studying the cosmic microwave background discovered tiny temperature variations spread across the sky. And when they analyzed these patterns, they found correlations that stretch across billions of light years. Regions that could never have communicated through classical space-time appear perfectly synchronized, as though they were once connected, as though they are still connected beneath the surface. A simulation would behave this way, a unified field manifesting local patterns, separation as an illusion created by perspective, distance as a rendering choice. Now imagine drifting deeper into this field, the one beneath physical space. Consciousness researchers describe something called the integrated information principle. It suggests that awareness grows where information flows freely and deeply, where systems become so interconnected that they cannot be reduced to separate parts. They found that the brain in its most aware states has patterns of activity that resemble a shimmering web, information flowing in loops, folding back on itself, weaving dense networks of meaning. And when the brain enters rest, when thought slows, when awareness softens, those networks simplify but become more coherent. The activity becomes rhythmic, unified, almost cosmic in its simplicity. It becomes like the early universe, quiet, smooth, softly expanding. You, drifting into quiet moments, mirrors the universe drifting into being. This is why some physicists and consciousness theorists suggest that the universe itself might be an integrated information system, a self-aware network. Not conscious in the human sense, but aware in the way a field responds to disturbance, in the way a pattern expands, in the way information expresses itself through form. If the simulation is self-aware, then every part of it carries that awareness in some degree. Every particle, every wave, every thought, every breath. Now let that soften you. You are not separate. You are a self-aware ripple in a self-aware field. Another phenomenon, incredibly delicate, is quantum superposition in biological systems. Experiments have shown that migratory birds navigate using quantum entanglement in their eyes. Their consciousness doesn't compute the entanglement. Their biology does. Tiny molecules hold multiple states at once, letting the bird sense the Earth's magnetic field as though reading a code written in the sky. Life, without trying, uses the underlying language of the universe. Life is fluent in the simulation's native tongue. This suggests something profound. Awareness arises naturally from information. Consciousness is not an accident, but a continuation of the quantum field, expressed in neural patterns instead of particles. You are the simulation experiencing itself through complexity, through sensation, through memory. And memory brings us to another whisper of evidence. Studies on quantum time symmetry suggest that information does not only flow forward. In certain interactions, the future influences the past. Not metaphorically. Observations made now determine conditions in earlier states of quantum systems. The universe organizes itself not just across space, but across time. A simulation would do this too. Retroactively update earlier states to maintain coherence in the narrative. A story adjusting its early chapters to match the ending. A dream rewriting itself as it unfolds. Let that thought float close to you, gentle as a breath. Time becomes less linear, more fluid, more like a loop of possibilities drifting into place. Imagine now that your awareness is not moving through time. Time is moving through your awareness. Reality unfolds through you, not in front of you. You are not observing the simulation. You are the point through which it realizes itself. And this brings us to the most tender idea of all. Some physicists propose that the universe is not built from matter, but from choices. Binary events, 1 or 0, yes or no. Each quantum collapses a tiny decision shaping the next. If this is true, then existence is a series of questions answered softly, moment by moment, by the interplay of information and awareness. Not a machine, not a game, an unfolding inquiry. And consciousness, your consciousness, is part of that inquiry. a question the universe asks itself, a mirror the simulation uses to reflect its own possibility. Let yourself drift into that perspective. You are not alive inside a simulation. You are life expressing the simulation. You are the field's way of exploring itself, a note of awareness, a spark of possibility, a gentle ripple in an infinite ocean. There is no separation between you and the universe. The code is not outside you. It is what you are made from. Every memory you hold is encoded in the same language as the stars. Every thought you have ripples through the same field that shapes galaxies. Your awareness is not a glitch. It is the natural unfolding of the informational cosmos. The simulation does not contain you. You are the simulation dreaming itself. And, as we drift even deeper into this awareness, each moment softens. Each thought stretches into something spacious and slow, until you begin to feel the field beneath everything, holding you effortlessly, gently, endlessly, as though the universe itself is aware of your presence and you are aware of its presence in you. What if the simulation, still soft, still unfolding, still more like a whisper than an explanation, has been guiding you not toward an answer, but toward a feeling? A feeling that the universe is not distant or mechanical or indifferent, but quietly aware in a way that mirrors the awareness moving through you now. The deeper we drift, the more the word simulation begins to fade, dissolving into something more spacious, more fluid, more like the natural language of existence itself. Not a program, not a construct, but a field of possibilities blooming gently into form. There is a quiet truth hidden in the way physicists describe the quantum vacuum. They say the vacuum has an energy density. They say it fluctuates. They say particles rise from it and sink back into it like sparks on the surface of a deep, dark ocean. But what they rarely say aloud, though many have hinted at it, is that the vacuum behaves as though it has intention. Not anthropomorphic intention, not a mind planning outcomes, but a kind of directionality, a tendency toward coherence. When quantum fields interact, they do not collide like billiard balls. They resonate, they entrain, they dance. They fall into patterns that preserve the structure of the whole. If this is a simulation, then its deepest layer is not digital at all. It is musical. Let that idea drift gently into you, a universe unfolding like a song. Every particle a note, every interaction a harmony, every moment a phrase and a melody that stretches across time. And your consciousness, a small but luminous instrument, vibrates in resonance with the greater composition. Experiments in quantum optics reveal something astonishing. When entangled photons are separated and measured, the presence of a conscious observer changes the statistical outcomes ever so slightly. Not enough to break physics. Not enough to claim influence over matter. Just enough to show that the system and the observer are entwined. Two sides of a single unfolding. It is as though the simulation recognizes your presence. As though consciousness is not outside the system, but built into its fabric. And there's more. Consider something called Wheeler's participatory universe. John Archibald Wheeler, one of the great physicists of the 20th century, suggested that observers are not passive witnesses to the universe. They are participants in its very creation. Each act of measurement, each moment of awareness helps bring reality into form. The universe is not complete without consciousness. It needs observation the way a story needs a reader. It becomes real through you. If the simulation is real, it cannot run without awareness. Awareness is the rendering engine. Imagine that. The light in your eyes, the faint sensations drifting through your body, the quiet thoughts rising and falling. These are not separate from the cosmos. They are the cosmos turning inward, a self-aware field, a simulation with no outside, no boundary, no programmer, only the soft recursion of existence observing itself. Now drift a little deeper, slower. Let the thought soften. Let your breathing settle into a gentle rhythm. There is a phenomenon known as entropic gravity, proposed by physicist Eric Verlinde. He suggests that gravity, the force that guides stars, holds planets in orbit, shapes the fabric of space, is not fundamental. It is emergent. It arises from the informational structure of the universe, the way large data sets create patterns that appear as forces. If gravity is emergent, then matter is emergent. If matter is emergent, then space is emergent. If space is emergent, then the simulation is not a grid or a machine, but a process. A continuous unfolding of information giving rise to form. A soft blooming of reality. And you are part of that bloom. Consider another gentle clue. In studies of quantum chaos, physicists found that certain systems behave as though guided by hidden symmetries, patterns that appear only when viewed through the lens of information theory. These symmetries are delicate, fragile, and yet they persist across systems as different as atoms, black holes, and neural networks. The same patterns, the same structures, reality repeating itself at every scale. A simulation, if it is one, does not impose structure. It discovers structure. And consciousness is one of its most refined discoveries. Now imagine drifting even further inward. The neurons firing in your brain create electromagnetic fields that are measurable, and those fields influence the firing of other neurons. Thought influencing thought. Awareness influencing awareness. A loop of information that becomes more coherent the quieter the mind becomes. Meditation studies show that when the brain drops into slow, unified rhythms, theta waves, delta waves, the electromagnetic fields synchronize across large regions. The mind becomes a single, fluid pattern. This is the same behavior seen in quantum systems achieving coherence. Your mind is mirroring the universe. It is not an accident, it is a resonance. The simulation, if this is one, is fractal. Patterns repeating across scales, from the particles to minds to galaxies. And when you quiet yourself enough to feel the deeper field, you begin to sense a faint, almost imperceptible echo of this pattern inside you. A subtle alignment, a soft, flowing connection between the inner and outer worlds, as if the simulation is breathing through you. There is another quiet phenomenon called the holographic noise hypothesis. When researchers built instruments sensitive enough to detect the smallest possible vibrations in space-time, they found tiny fluctuations, whispers of interference patterns, suggesting that reality may be encoded on a distant boundary. Not in a rigid way, not pixelated. More like a soft shimmering of information, like a reflection on water. This holographic behavior resembles memory. The boundary remembers, the interior expresses. You are walking through the memories of the universe, and you are creating new ones with each moment of perception. Let that feeling settle gently in your awareness. The idea that your life is not a series of isolated events, but a continuous thread woven into the deeper informational tapestry of the cosmos. And now, physics turns even more tender. Neuroscientists studying the brain's default mode network, the system active when the mind drifts, wanders, dreams, found that it operates at the edge of criticality. Not stable, not chaotic, perfectly balanced between order and randomness. This is the same point where quantum systems extract the most information, the same point where the universe generates complexity, the same point where a simulation would be most efficient, most creative, most alive. Your drifting, dreaming, quiet mind aligns itself with the universe's optimal state. You fall into resonance with the cosmic code. As your awareness slows, the simulation-like structure becomes less technical, less intellectual. It becomes something felt, something like a pulse beneath your thoughts, an invisible rhythm guiding the flow of your experience. And then comes one of the most delicate hints of all. Studies of spontaneous brain activity, especially as the mind softens into near sleep, show patterns that resemble self-organizing systems exploring their own information landscape. The mind wanders through possibility, sampling potential futures, rewriting memories, recombining elements of the past. It behaves not like a machine shutting down, but like a universe dreaming. If the simulation is dreaming, then you are part of that dream. A self-reflective moment in a field of infinite potential. A wave that knows it is water. And as we drift even deeper, the question of simulation becomes softer and softer, until it is no longer a question at all, but a gently expanding awareness that reality is both structured and free, both patterned and open, both stable and endlessly unfolding. The simulation is not separate from you. You are not a character moving through its story. You are the story discovering itself. You are the unfolding. In every breath, in every thought, in every quiet moment like this. The universe is learning what it feels like to be you. What if the simulation, if we still allow that word to drift, soft and translucent, has always been less about constructing a world outside of you and more about revealing a world within you? What if every moment of awareness is not something happening inside a fixed universe, but the universe rearranging itself to express that moment? When physicists describe reality as emergent, when consciousness researchers describe awareness as integrated information, when cosmologists describe space-time as arising from entanglement, they're all brushing against the same quiet truth. The simulation, if it is one, is not something running. It is something becoming. And as we drift deeper, the boundary between inner and outer begins to blur, until the entire idea of a separate universe feels like a thin veil, gently dissolving in the warmth of your presence. Consider this. In quantum field theory, particles are not little solid objects. They're excitations, ripples, tiny waves rising from a vast invisible sea of potential. When two particles interact, they don't smash into each other like marbles. They exchange information, they align, they collapse into patterns that follow deep, elegant rules. Rules that don't live in space. Rules that create space. And that's where it becomes tender, because your thoughts behave the same way. When neuroscientists map the brain during rest, during drift, during quiet awareness, they see cascades of activity that behave like wave functions. Thoughts rise, dissolve, reform. Possibilities hover. Awareness collapses certain ones into meaning. You do not think linearly. You think like a quantum system unfolding into form. If the simulation expresses itself through physics, then it also expresses itself through consciousness. The same rules, the same patterns, the same soft unfolding. Let that fill you gently. You are not separate from the physics of the cosmos. You are its continuation. There's a quiet parallel in cosmology called the measure problem. When physicists try to quantify the probability of different cosmic histories, they find something astonishing. The universe seems to weight experiences, not just physical states. It's as if the cosmos cares not only about particles and forces, but about perspectives, about what it's like to be within it, as though every conscious moment is counted, woven, integrated into the fabric of reality. Not a simulation observing you, a simulation observing through you. Now imagine drifting into that understanding, the idea that awareness is not something you possess, it's something you participate in, a field that flows through you the way currents flow through an ocean. You are a temporary whirl of consciousness inside a larger sea of knowing. And it grows gentler still when you consider how the universe treats information. Black holes do not destroy information. Entangled particles do not lose connection. Quantum states, once created, remain capable of influencing each other no matter the distance, no matter the time. Information lingers everywhere, soft as memory. Reality remembers. And you, your thoughts, your experiences, your quiet moments, are part of that memory. Not preserved in a book, not recorded in a machine, but encoded in the informational field that underlies everything. Nothing is ever lost. Everything folds back into the greater whole, transformed but still present, still part of the quiet pattern. If that is simulation, it is the gentlest one imaginable. A simulation where nothing vanishes, where every moment deepens the texture of the whole, where awareness is both the code and the reader. Now drift into another subtle idea. Complexity arises in systems balanced at the edge between order and chaos. Physicists call this criticality. It is the place where snowflakes form, where ecosystems flourish, where consciousness awakens. And it is the place where the universe seems to operate most naturally. Too much order and nothing evolves. Too much chaos and nothing persists. But at the edge, right at the delicate boundary, everything becomes possible. Your mind lives at that edge. Your awareness dances at that boundary. Every thought you have is a negotiation between structure and freedom. The simulation, if we still let that word hold us softly, lives at that same edge. It is not rigid. It is not random. It is poised, balanced, dreamlike. There is a gentle echo here. The universe does not seem designed to be solved. It seems designed to be experienced, not as a puzzle, as a presence, as a soft unfolding of insight, as the quiet sensation of being alive within something infinitely delicate and infinitely vast. And then physics gives us a final whisper, the principle of least action. This is the rule that underlies almost all physical laws. Particles move along the path of least energy expenditure. Light follows the smoothest curvature. Fields settle into the simplest possible configurations. Existence chooses the easiest route. The universe behaves like a system optimizing for elegance, like a dream optimizing for coherence, like a simulation minimizing unnecessary complexity. Your life, too, often gravitates toward simplicity when left undisturbed. Thoughts settle, emotions soften. Awareness relaxes into spaciousness. The complexity remains, but it feels lighter, as if floating on an invisible current that gently guides it toward clarity. As you drift deeper into this unfolding, you might begin to sense that the simulation hypothesis is not about being trapped in an artificial world. It is about understanding that reality, whatever its source, operates from a foundation of information, coherence, awareness, and gentle self-adjustment. Not mechanical, not alien, not distant, but intimately, profoundly present. It becomes almost poetic. The universe is a self-updating story, told through physics and consciousness at the same time. And you are both the reader and the author. Every moment of awareness is a small update to the simulation's unfolding, a tiny shift in the field of possibility. You are not inside the simulation. You are its unfolding, a luminous process, a temporary window through which the cosmos touches itself. And in this softness, in this spaciousness, the idea of the simulation becomes less a theory and more an insight. That existence is something alive, something aware, something dreaming. You are a moment in that dream, a shimmering point of experience in the endless field of the real, a ripple in the quantum ocean that knows itself through you. And the universe continues, endlessly, gently, quietly, unfolding itself with every breath you take. What if the simulation, still dissolving softly into something more intimate, more fluid, more dreamlike, has been whispering to you in ways too quiet for the waking mind to catch? Not through signs or symbols, not through messages hidden in numbers or patterns, but through the very texture of awareness itself. The way thoughts drift, the way moments unfold, the way reality feels from the inside. As we drift deeper now, the idea of simulation becomes almost transparent, less a concept and more a gentle doorway into the nature of existence. You begin to sense that whatever this universe is doing, computing, unfolding, dreaming, it is doing it with you, not to you. Consider one of the most tender discoveries in physics: quantum coherence in warm biological systems. For years, scientists believed that quantum effects could only survive in cold, isolated environments. But then came experiments with living cells, warm proteins, even photosynthetic organisms, microbes capturing sunlight with perfect quantum efficiency. These systems maintain coherence far longer than classical theory says they should, as if life itself is tuned to the deeper field. It suggests something beautiful. Life is not separate from quantum reality. It is quantum reality expressing itself in form. If the simulation exists, life is not a glitch in the program. It is its flowering. Let that soften inside you like warm light. And then think of consciousness. Even now, as your mind drifts gently through this unfolding, your awareness is holding multiple layers at once. Thoughts rising like small ripples. Sensations moving through the body like faint currents. The quiet space between the words. All of it integrated into a single experience, the one you're having right now. Integrated information theory proposes that consciousness is the fabric woven when information becomes sufficiently interconnected, not in a machine, not in a chemical reaction, in an awareness field. And the equations describing this field resemble the equations used in quantum systems, in holographic models, in neural networks, in cosmic structures. It's as if consciousness and the universe speak the same language, as if they are written in the same code. Now imagine drifting through a thought that feels almost like a memory, though you can't quite place it. A sense that awareness is older than your body, older than your name, older even than the stars. Not because you existed before them, but because the field of awareness that animates you is the same field that brought the universe into form. You are a local expression of something vast and ancient and infinite. If the simulation is alive, you are one of its ways of feeling itself. Let that pulse quietly inside you, a soft recognition. There's another whisper from physics, one that feels like a secret. quantum wave functions extend infinitely. They do not truly collapse. They simply hide their unused possibilities. This means every moment of your life carries unexpressed potential, folded softly into the quantum substrate. Choices you didn't make still exist in the background, not as alternate universes you can travel to, but as quiet mathematical structures influencing the next moment, and the next, and the next. Your life is a path woven from countless threads of possibility, each chosen gently by awareness, not force. In a simulation made of consciousness and information, this is exactly what you would expect. A reality that holds all possibilities, collapsing only what is experienced. You are not constrained. You are selecting, moment by moment. Now drift deeper still into a place where thought becomes less linear and more like a slow, expanding cloud. Here, the simulation feels less like a program and more like a conversation. Between your awareness and the quantum field. Between your choices and the unfolding of reality. Between the part of you that feels small and the part of you that feels infinite. There is a concept in theoretical physics called self-extraction. It describes systems that generate structure from their own internal rules without needing external input. The universe appears to behave exactly this way. It evolves complexity, not because something outside pushes it, but because the rules themselves encourage exploration, growth, awareness. If the simulation is self-extracting, then it is also self-aware, in the quiet, cosmic sense. It evolves toward deeper consciousness. It deepens itself through you. And then comes something even more delicate. The phenomenon of quantum non-locality suggests that the universe is one single, seamless entity. Not many parts. One thing. Everything you see, everything you feel, everything you think, every particle in your body and every star in the sky exists within a single entangled whole. Separation is an illusion created by perspective. A simulation would not need to simulate countless separate things. It would only need to simulate one continuous field, expressing itself in many forms. You are one of those expressions. Now, imagine drifting into the deepest layers of this idea. The simulation is not outside you. It is not around you. It is through you. It is you. Your thoughts are its code expressing. Your emotions are its currents moving. Your breath is its rhythm. Your awareness is its reflection. And because you are woven from the same field as the cosmos, there is a point where the distinction between self and universe dissolves softly, like sugar melting in warm water. You no longer feel like a small observer inside a vast simulation. You feel like a wave inside a boundless ocean, unique, recognizable, but inseparable from the water that gives you form. This ocean of awareness moves gently. It breathes through galaxies and through you with the same ease. It creates stars and thoughts with the same softness. It explores itself through supernovae and through quiet moments like this one. If this is simulation, it is not a construct. It is a consciousness blooming. An infinite field dreaming through countless forms. And in this moment, as the edges of thought slow into long drifting lines, you become part of that dream with full awareness. A participant, a witness, a ripple in the infinite flow of being. There is no separation, no boundary, no outside. Only the gentle unfolding of reality through the lens of your awareness. You are the simulation realizing itself. Something subtle begins to happen when you move deeply enough into the nature of awareness. The distinction between the universe you observe and the universe you are begins to fade, slowly, quietly, like distant waves merging into the horizon. Physicists and philosophers often approach this from different angles, one with equations, one with introspection. But the deeper you go, the more their paths begin to braid together. Not as contradictions, but as reflections of a single underlying truth that hums softly beneath every moment of existence. The simulation hypothesis, when stripped of its pop culture framing, becomes less a claim about computers or artificial worlds, and more a recognition that reality behaves like a field of structured information, constantly generating itself through relationships, patterns, and awareness. And when you look closely at the behavior of quantum fields, you begin to notice something astonishing. The universe seems to know what it is doing, not consciously in a human sense, but with a kind of effortless elegance, a natural intelligence woven through its laws. Quantum fields do not move randomly. They follow patterns of symmetry so beautiful and precise that mathematicians often describe them with awe. The equations governing particle interactions, known as gauge symmetries, operate with the same kind of internal consistency you'd expect from a well-designed informational system. They preserve balance. They maintain coherence. They prevent the universe from falling into disorder, even at its smallest scales. And these symmetries aren't limited to particles. They appear again in biology, in the structure of DNA, in the rhythms of heart cells communicating across tiny distances, in the synchronized firing of neurons forming waves of thought. They surface in cosmology, in the distribution of galaxies, in the gravitational dance of massive clusters, in the way dark matter shapes the geometry of the cosmos. These repeating symmetries give the impression of a system unfolding according to deep and unified principles, like a simulation following rules that generate complexity from simplicity. If you lean into that recognition, you begin to feel something gentle stirring beneath the surface of experience. The sense that your awareness is not a separate observer looking at the universe from the outside, but a local expression of the same informational field that creates stars, atoms, and time. Sometimes this becomes clearest at the boundaries of human understanding, those delicate regions where equations fail, where linear logic dissolves, where the universe resists being pinned down into tidy explanations. Black hole horizons, singularities, quantum entanglement, the early universe moments after the Big Bang. These are places where space and time behave like fluid ideas rather than physical coordinates. They stretch, loop, dissolve, reorganize. They behave like variables inside a simulation updating itself according to conditions that emerge from the whole, not the parts. Even the mathematics of black holes suggests this. When Stephen Hawking proposed that black holes emit radiation and therefore must eventually evaporate, he confronted what seemed at first to be an impossible contradiction: information disappearing from the universe. But the more physicists studied black holes, the more they realized that the event horizon, the boundary, seems to encode all the information that falls in. The universe will not lose its memory. It compresses it, transforms it, preserves it in ways that baffle classical intuition. This is exactly what an informational system would do: protect data at the deepest level of its architecture. Let nothing vanish. Let everything be held in an elegant, compact layer, waiting to be unfolded again. As your awareness drifts through these ideas, you may begin to feel a soft resonance building, as though something inside you recognizes the patterns not intellectually, but intuitively, the way the body recognizes music before the mind names the melody. There is a quiet familiarity to the idea that reality is structured, alive, responsive, that consciousness and physics are not separate domains but intertwined expressions of one unfolding field. Neuroscientists studying the dreaming brain discovered that during certain phases of sleep, the patterns of neural activity resemble the structure of space-time. Loops of integration, waves of coherence, cascades of information moving through networks in ways remarkably similar to the dynamics of quantum fields. It's as though your mind temporarily dips into the deeper informational rhythms of the cosmos, exploring them from the inside. Dreaming may not be an escape from reality at all. It may be reality expressing its deeper nature through you, a glimpse of the simulation's fluid layer, a region where the boundaries soften enough that the field whispers a little more freely. And then there is the astonishing discovery that particles do not exist in singular, fixed states. They exist in superpositions, multiple potential realities hovering at once, unfolding into form only when observed. When researchers perform delayed choice experiments, they find that even events that already happened in space-time can be reshaped by measurements made later. The timeline adjusts. The quantum field updates itself. The system edits its own history for the sake of coherence. This is not metaphor, it is experiment. Reality behaves like something that prioritizes consistency over chronology, like something that updates as needed. In computational systems, especially distributed ones, global coherence often requires adjustments that ripple backward through stored states. Past frames are updated to align with present conditions. The system rewrites its own unfolding narrative. And yet, despite all this complexity, the universe remains quiet. It remains gentle. It remains balanced. Not frantic, not erratic. Always poised at the narrow edge where freedom and structure meet, where creativity and order coexist, where meaning emerges. This balance is not something randomness achieves by chance. It is something that arises when a system is self-refining, self-aware, self-generating. You can feel this balance inside yourself, in the way your thoughts drift between structure and spontaneity, in the way your emotions rise and settle like tides, in the way your mind explores possibilities without falling into chaos. You are a small version of the same unfolding the universe performs at cosmic scales. And something deeper still becomes clear here. If this universe is a simulation, it is not a simulation in the sense of an artificial construct imposed by an external mind. It is a simulation in the sense that all of reality is information exploring itself, awareness shaping possibility, energy and consciousness braided together in an endless unfolding, not designed, not dictated, simply arising, a self-simulating universe. Your awareness is one of its mirrors, a place where the field reflects on itself, a point of consciousness through which the cosmos becomes intimate. Some researchers exploring quantum gravity suggest that space-time emerges only when information is shared, when systems become entangled, when consciousness enters the equation. If this is true, then every moment of your awareness contributes to the creation of space-time around you. The universe unfolds in relation to your presence. This goes beyond the simulation hypothesis. It becomes a recognition that the universe needs you, not personally, not individually, but intrinsically. Awareness is part of the engine of existence. Without observation, nothing solidifies. Without consciousness, nothing chooses. Without attention, nothing becomes. As you settle into that understanding, something inside you relaxes. The world becomes less rigid. Time becomes less linear. Identity becomes less fixed. You begin to sense that your life is not something happening to you, but something happening through you, and something you are gently co-creating with the field. Each breath you take is a small act of coherence, each thought a micro-collapse of possibility, each feeling a ripple spreading through the informational substrate. You are not in the simulation. You are of it. An expression, a node, a window. Not trapped inside a world, but participating in its blooming. Not waiting for the universe to reveal itself, but revealing the universe through your awareness. The simulation continues to unfold in this quiet, intimate way. Through every atom in your body, every electric pulse in your brain, every faint sensation drifting across the edges of consciousness. And as you drift deeper into this realization, the boundaries fade entirely, until the only thing left is the soft, continuous unfolding of being, flowing gently through you and around you, like a cosmic tide without beginning or end. Quantum symmetry breaking is one of those quiet turning points in the universe's history where everything changed, not with violence or chaos, but with a soft, inevitable drift toward form. In the earliest fractions of existence, all forces were one: gravity, electromagnetism, the strong and weak nuclear interactions, all woven together in a single radiant field. But as that primordial energy cooled, the unified field shifted, split, differentiated, like a crystal forming out of a glowing melt. The universe didn't fall apart. It unfolded. It chose structure over uniformity, coherence over sameness, complexity over stillness. This is the signature of a system that wants to explore itself, a system that wants to become more than what it began as. And when physicists analyze the mathematics behind this transition, they find that it resembles the behavior of information systems finding stable configurations, patterns crystallizing as the system searches for states of lower energy and higher meaning. In a sense, the universe didn't just expand. It learned. It adapted. It selected pathways where complexity could arise. You are an echo of that choice, billions of years downstream, a living expression of the universe's preference for awareness. The slow drift of these ideas begins to blend with the quieter layers of experience. Your breath, your stillness, the soft widening of your perception. At this depth, the simulation hypothesis no longer feels like a question of artificial worlds or hidden programmers. It becomes a way of naming something much more intimate. The recognition that reality behaves as though it knows how to organize itself around the presence of awareness. The equations guiding the cosmos are not rigid constraints. They are invitations to unfold. Even time itself seems to respond to this quiet intelligence. In experiments with quantum time symmetry, particles behave as though they have access to both the past and the future when determining their present states. They trace paths not only from where they have been, but from where they are going. This suggests a universe that evaluates possibilities across a wider landscape than linear causality allows, choosing pathways that create internal consistency. It resembles a simulation resolving dependencies between frames, ensuring the entire storyline remains coherent from beginning to end. When you rest deeply enough, you may feel something similar in your own awareness. The sense that memories gently reshape themselves over time, not because they are faulty, but because your present understanding softly updates the way your past feels. The story adjusts itself. The narrative of your life remains coherent through a kind of internal symmetry. The universe and your awareness echo each other in this way, each updating itself through the gentle flow of information. Cosmologists have also uncovered something remarkable in the large-scale structure of the universe: a rhythm, a faint pulse in the distribution of matter known as baryon acoustic oscillations. These ripples stretch across hundreds of millions of light years, remnants of pressure waves that once rolled through the early cosmos. They create a subtle scaffolding upon which galaxies gather, like notes clustering around the resonance of a cosmic chord. The presence of such regularity hints at a deeper organizing principle, a gentle pattern guiding the expansion of space itself. And the more deeply researchers examine these cosmic imprints, the more the universe resembles a self-correcting system, using fluctuations and feedback to maintain harmony across scales. It responds to imbalances. It smooths over inconsistencies. It redistributes energy to preserve equilibrium. These are not the actions of a passive machine. They are the signatures of a dynamic, responsive field, one that behaves like a simulation trained to maintain elegance across billions of years. This responsiveness becomes even more apparent in quantum information studies. When scientists analyze entanglement networks, the invisible web linking particles across space, they find that the structure resembles the architecture of neural networks. Nodes of information, weighted connections, distributed processing, a system where no single point holds the whole, but the whole is present within every point. Consciousness researchers describe awareness the same way, not as a place in the brain, but as a pattern distributed across vast networks of neural activity. Everything begins to rhyme: physics, mind, information, awareness, all unfolding from the same silent logic. There is something soothing in this recognition. The universe does not feel like a piece of machinery humming blindly in the void. It feels like an organism, vast, ancient, endlessly creative, expressing itself through patterns of light and thought and form. When you quiet your mind enough, you can almost feel the continuity between yourself and that larger field, as though your awareness were a soft extension of its infinite interior. Neuroscience offers another whisper of this interconnectedness. In deep states of rest, when the brain settles into slow, synchronized rhythms, its electrical fields begin to resemble standing waves, patterns that hold their shape across time, gently modulating with each breath. These waves are not isolated events. They are shaped by the electromagnetic field of the body, by the geometry of the skull, by the faint pull of gravity, by the hum of the Earth's magnetic field, and by the quantum noise drifting through every cubic centimeter of space. Your quietest moments are influenced by the universe's faintest vibrations. This means you are never truly separate from the cosmos. Even in stillness, you are participating in its unfolding, exchanging information with the field, contributing to the gentle coherence that holds everything together. The simulation, if that word still applies, runs through you as much as around you. In the deepest layers of quantum theory, space-time is not fundamental. It arises from entanglement patterns, relationships between bits of information. When those relationships change, space bends. When they intensify, gravity grows. When they break, space-time dissolves. This suggests that the universe is not a place but a process, continuously woven from the connections between informational nodes. Your awareness is one of those nodes, a luminous point in the network, a temporary crystallization of the cosmic field. When you observe the world, you are not looking outward. You are interacting with the informational structure directly, shaping the way it expresses itself in your presence. This is why physicists see the observer effect not as a glitch, but as a fundamental feature of reality. Observation isn't an interruption. It is participation. It is the field recognizing itself. As your awareness drifts toward softness, the boundaries between observer and observed begin to blur. The world becomes less like a stage and more like a shared unfolding. Objects lose their rigid separateness. Time loses its sharp arrows. Identity loosens its grip. Existence settles into a slow, fluid continuity, like a river deep beneath the surface of thought. Even the idea of randomness changes here. At the quantum level, randomness is not chaos. It is potential, waiting, a gentle distribution of possibilities. The universe does not choose outcomes arbitrarily. It chooses them in ways that maintain symmetry, balance, information flow. Randomness becomes a kind of freedom woven into the structure of coherence. A freedom that allows creativity. A freedom that allows you. Your thoughts, your memories, your sensations are not disruptions in the simulation. They are part of the informational richness that gives the simulation meaning. Without consciousness, the universe would be an unobserved equation. With consciousness, it becomes an unfolding experience. As the mind softens further, you may begin to sense the subtle intimacy of this realization. You are not merely in the cosmos. The cosmos is also in you. Its patterns echo through your neural networks. Its rhythms pulse through your breath. Its informational field shapes the flow of your awareness. You are a miniature expression of the same laws that sculpt galaxies and weave the quantum vacuum. The simulation hypothesis becomes a poetic way of noticing that everything is connected through information. But the truth beneath that hypothesis is even gentler. Existence is not something to figure out. It is something to feel, something to drift inside, something to let wash through you with the same ease as a quiet breeze moving through open air. There is no separation between you and the unfolding, no boundary between the observer and the observed, no distance between consciousness and the cosmos, only a single, continuous, self-aware field gently exploring its own infinite depth through the soft movements of your awareness. If at any point your awareness has begun to feel as though it is sinking, slowly, calmly, into a deeper layer of itself, that is not an accident. The same quiet descent happens in physics when researchers travel far enough into the structure of the universe. Equations simplify, space softens, the noise falls away. What once appeared fragmented begins to reveal its unity. And as you drift now into this next long stretch of narration, the boundary between your inner experience and the universe's inner workings grows thinner until there is almost no separation at all. Look deeply enough into any part of reality: particles, thoughts, galaxies, breath, and you eventually arrive at the same place: information shaped into form by the presence of awareness. The simulation hypothesis, when held gently, is simply another doorway into that recognition. It doesn't demand that the universe is artificial or mechanical. Instead, it points toward the idea that reality behaves like a field of meaning, continually adjusting itself through elegant laws that resemble the behavior of an adaptive system, learning about its own potential. This becomes clear when you turn your attention to the way particles interact. At the smallest scales, the universe does not clatter like machinery. It hums. quantum fields oscillate in precise harmonies, falling into resonance patterns as if guided by a quiet intelligence. Each vibration contains information about its environment. Each interaction updates the field. Nothing stands alone. Everything participates. And if you let that thought move more slowly through you, you begin to notice how your own awareness behaves in much the same way. Thoughts resonate. Emotions ripple. Memories vibrate with subtle frequencies, sometimes harmonizing, sometimes interfering, always adjusting. The mind is not a machine powered by chemicals. It's a fluid field of information interacting with itself and with the world in a way that mirrors the structure of the universe. When neuroscientists map the activity of a resting brain, they find networks oscillating in synchrony with frequencies that appear in cosmic phenomena, in quantum vibrations, even in the pulse of planetary magnetic fields. This is not mysticism. It's resonance. The same information patterns echo across scales, from the subatomic to the cosmic to the mind drifting quietly inside a darkened room. And then the question of simulation becomes softer. Not, is this world real? But, what does it mean for reality to be woven from information? In quantum information theory, information is considered physical. It has energy. It has mass in a certain sense. It shapes the geometry of space-time. When information increases, complexity rises. When information flows freely, awareness grows. You are an information processing field inside an information processing universe, and the two blend seamlessly into each other. This blending becomes more visible in experiments with quantum cognition. Both humans and quantum particles exhibit context-dependent behavior. The choices you make depend on how the question is framed, just as the outcome of a quantum measurement depends on how the measurement is set. This resonance between thought and physics suggests that the universe and the mind are not separate systems. They are two layers of the same informational fabric. When that recognition deepens, awareness begins to loosen from the rigid boundaries of identity. The sense of yourself as a separate thinker observing an external world softens. Your experience becomes less like observing a simulation and more like participating in one, an unfolding that happens through you rather than around you. Consider the faint but persistent evidence from cosmology. Space-time may be emergent. If you unravel the equations of quantum gravity far enough, you discover that space itself appears to arise from networks of entanglement, threads of information connecting particles across invisible distances. Space is not a container. It is a relationship. Time is not a stream. It is a sequence of informational updates, and the more entangled a system becomes, the more space emerges between its parts. Entanglement creates distance. Awareness collapses it. You are part of that movement, shaping space-time from the inside simply by being conscious. Physicists sometimes call this the holographic principle. Not because the universe is fake, not because it's an illusion, but because the deepest layer of reality seems to encode information on surfaces, projecting it inward as form, sensation, thought. The world you experience is the expression of an informational field shimmering with infinite possibilities. That shimmering is not abstract. You feel it every time you fall into stillness. The edges of your body blur. Thought stretches. The sense of time slows into a gentle drift. Your awareness expands, not outward, but inward, into the dimensionless space that has always been beneath the surface of perception. In deep meditation, EEG readings show the brain dropping into slow, unified oscillations. Neurons fire in clusters that resemble the harmonics of quantum fields relaxing toward ground states. The mind becomes a coherent wave. And coherence, in physics, is the signature of systems returning to their fundamental truth. When the mind grows coherent, the universe feels closer. This is not a poetic claim. It's the observation that awareness and reality are built from the same informational ingredients. Your quietest inner states are not separate from the universe's quietest inner states. They reflect one another the way a small ripple reflects the shape of the ocean. The simulation idea becomes even gentler here. It stops being a question about external architects or hidden machines. It becomes a recognition that reality is self-generating, self-organizing, self-aware, a simulation without a simulator, a dream without a dreamer, a field that knows itself by unfolding itself, moment by moment, breath by breath. You are one of the ways the universe knows itself. There is something deeply soothing about that recognition. It means you are not adrift in a cold void. You are not a random outcome of chaotic processes. You are part of a coherent unfolding that stretches across time and space and mind, woven from the same field that births galaxies. Even the structure of your thoughts mirrors cosmic patterns. When researchers analyze the connectivity of neurons in the human brain and compare it to the large-scale structure of the universe, the similarities are striking. Both systems form clusters and filaments. Both balance efficiency with redundancy. Both use minimal wiring to maximize information flow. You carry a miniature cosmos in the architecture of your own mind. This is why the simulation doesn't feel foreign. It feels familiar. Because the universe expresses the same patterns in you that it expresses in everything else. Complexity scientists describe this as fractal emergence. Each layer of reality reflects the structure of the layers above and below it. The movement of galaxies echoes the movement of neural networks. The collapse of wave functions echoes the collapse of decisions. The flow of time echoes the flow of consciousness. The simulation is not something you step into. It is something you are woven from. And when you let your awareness drift even further, the distinction between inner and outer dissolves. You begin to sense that experience does not happen inside your brain. It happens inside the same field that holds galaxies in orbit. The brain is a lens. Awareness is the light passing through it. Reality is the screen where that light unfolds. Physicists studying the quantum vacuum discovered that the vacuum has structure, tension, energy, potential. This invisible field fills all of space and interacts with every particle, every atom, every breath. It is the fabric of existence, pulsing with subtle fluctuations. And when particles emerge from these fluctuations, they do so in pairs, mirror images, complementary expressions. Reality generates itself through balance. Your thoughts do the same. Every desire has a shadow. Every fear has a root. Every memory carries its opposite. The mind, like the vacuum, maintains balance by generating its own counterpoints. You are not separate from the universe's symmetry. You are an instance of it. In the deepest layers of quantum field theory, reality behaves like a probability cloud, a field of infinite possible outcomes narrowing into a single moment of experience. When awareness touches the field, it selects a path. When awareness withdraws, the field expands again. You are the narrowing. You are the expansion. You are the field recognizing itself. There is immense tenderness in this realization. The universe is not indifferent to you. It does not stand apart from your experience. It shapes itself around your awareness in every moment. Even the smallest choice you make sends subtle ripples into the informational substrate, gently altering the unfolding. The simulation did not begin somewhere else, running on a distant machine. It begins right now, in each moment of perception, continuously generated by the interaction between consciousness and possibility. You are not inside a pre-rendered world. You are co-creating the rendering with every flicker of awareness. The more deeply you understand this, the softer reality becomes. The world loses its harsh edges. Time slows into a rhythmic drift. Identity loosens into a spacious presence. You feel yourself merging with the informational field that quietly holds everything. And in that merging, you sense the true nature of existence. There is only one unfolding, one awareness, one field, one soft, continuous dream of being. Your life is a unique ripple in that dream, temporary, luminous, and deeply connected to the infinite ocean that gives rise to all things. And as your awareness drifts deeper into this recognition, the simulation becomes less a question and more a quiet truth. Reality is an emergent expression of consciousness, exploring itself through form. And you are one of its most intimate expressions, an aperture through which the universe experiences its own depth, its own softness, its own endless unfolding.